From ICW, Kristin Guthrie joins us. Welcome to CCW Digital on B2B I'm your host, Seth Adler. Download episodes on our app and iTunes, within the iTunes podcast app and Google Play or wherever you currently get your podcasts. First, some supporters to thank, and then Kristin Guthrie. Here it is, the fully integrated cloud CX platform that you need to act smarter, respond faster, and be first in CX. Now you can turn innovation into value, scale up when you need, and add new capabilities whenever the situation demands it. One experience, a single unified solution for employees and customers. One cloud, a single cloud offering based on AWS public cloud technology. One path for migration to the CX1 platform. The fully integrated cloud customer experience platform from NICE, allowing you to be first in CX. Visit nice.com for more. Leaders responsible for operations, information technology, customer experience, contact centers, customer care, service and support are invited to register for a free CCW digital membership. Membership includes networking with 100,000 plus qualified industry professionals, quarterly executive research reports, product matchmaking, and more. Go to ccwdigital.com to join the community. That's ccwdigital.com. What are the chances that you have any relation to Woody Guthrie?
None whatsoever, or Arlo.
Right. And that is asked often, I would imagine, based on the rapid response that I just got?
Well, and Janet Guthrie, the very first female race car driver.
Sure.
No relation there either.
No, okay. So you're your own Guthrie.
I am. We're
All
our
right.
own Guthries.
All right. Okay, so I'm glad that we got that out of the way. And I would imagine there's only like certain types of people ask you about the race car one, certain types of people ask you about Woody.
Very few on the race car. I only know because they're doing career day at school. And my daughter, through luck of draw, my fifth grader, got Janet Guthrie. And
Get
so
out.
I had to go buy a race car driver outfit, and I learned all about Janet Guthrie.
For her or for you?
For her.
Right. That makes more sense. Okay, fantastic. And then as far as Janet Guthrie is concerned, what should we know? You know, like what's the key thing?
The key?
Yeah.
That, well, she persevered, and
Yeah.
she was the first.
Right.
And that's all I know. I haven't seen it yet. Career Day's tomorrow.
Oh, my God, I can't wait. It's opening day.
That's right.
And closing night.
I expect to learn a lot.
All right. So besides doing that, you also have a job,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
You're one of these customer experience people, aren't you?
Correct.
So what do you know about customer experience? What is absolutely true?
What is absolutely true? That customer experience is still underestimated in terms of the impact it has on bottom line, attracting new customers, not just existing customers, and how you quantify it. It is quantifiable.
Oh, my God. This is, I think, the only thing we're going to talk about.
Okay.
All right? We've got to talk about the bottom line and quantifiability, which, of course, is a word.
Right.
Go there now. Tell me how you can quantify this.
So there are a lot of ways. Certainly there are going to be soft, overall satisfaction. But it depends, again, how you collect your data. So recently we went and collected your typical customer satisfaction survey with our customers. We have several groups. In our case, it might be an agent or it might be a policyholder. But when you pair with and append to that data overall satisfaction with and all the other criteria we measure, effectively meet your needs, ease of doing business, enjoyable to do business with, responsiveness, typical customer experience type attributes and metrics that you would measure. And you tie that to the percent of submissions that an agent might provide to you, the book of business, so you can quantify what percentage of their business do they do with us. We actually ask them, what percentage of your book of business do you submit to ICW? Looking at policyholders, you can look at premiums, bound premiums, win rates, renewal rates. And so you take all those customer experience criteria and you can run all your statistical analysis to look at not only where are your gaps in overall satisfaction and where to improve, which ones have the biggest impact on your financial results. And then we can actually get to the point where we can say, if we change this, we should see a 1/4 point increase in renewal rates.
In the bottom line.
In the bottom line.
Get out. And then, but I heard the should.
should.
We should see this. And then do you also have experience of we have seen that?
So at this particular company, no, because
Okay.
I've only been there 9 months.
All right.
And so we've collected all the data and we're making changes. The next time we do, as renewal rates come up, it
Yeah.
won't take that long because every month you can have a renewal.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's going to take about 6 months for them to feel the difference of our changes.
Sure.
See if it impacts. Now, there are always going to be extraneous variables. If the economy drops and now people are more price shoppers than they were previously, if the law changes and they don't have to have the same level of coverage, you're going to see premiums and renewals decline through no fault of the customer experience. So it's not going to be a clean, but we will be able to see if there's an impact, particularly in those who did respond. Did they renew or not?
So we're here in the first quarter. No, we're here at the beginning of the second quarter.
Right.
So within 6 months, we're probably not going to have a law change.
Right.
So we should get, it won't be perfect data, but we should have pretty good data.
We should have pretty good data.
So we haven't even gotten anywhere in this conversation, but we're going to have to talk again.
Right.
Because
so
we
I can tell
need
you
to prove exactly
how we knocked it out of the park.
All right. So then what are we talking? You've only been there for 9 months and you've already done all of this. So how, first off, do you work this quickly? How is that possible?
Gosh, that is a good question. Really just heads down, trying to, and realizing that the long pole in the tent is your data. And so the very first person that I hired for the team was our marketing research scientist. And so getting him on board as quickly as possible so that we could collect all of the data. Because I don't want to, there are a lot of areas in any company you can go and improve. There's low-hanging fruit.
Sure.
But does that low-hanging fruit matter? I want to pick the right fruit, not just any fruit, indiscriminately if I'm going to improve projects. So you need to actually do what matters most. Otherwise, you're just sort of exhausting people as you run willy-nilly. Everyone's trying to do a little bit of and fix everything at once. So we want to be surgical about it so that, one, you're going to get buy-in if you can measure the results. So make sure what you're choosing to work on is going to be very impactful and that you can demonstrate results.
Right.
So it was getting the data right away.
So if you don't have a data scientist and you're listening, get one now.
Get one now. Exactly. Do it right away. And then the second and third people I hired were Six Sigma black belts.
Process. Okay.
Because now if we're going to go fix it, now that we know what to fix, I don't want to make a bad process faster.
Yeah.
I want to do it well.
So wait a second. I have these black belts over here that have no, history of customer experience whatsoever. They can't possibly help me, or can they?
Absolutely. You just have to they are going to be, because I also have a Six Sigma, I'm a master black belt. I have that background. And almost always you're deployed in such a way that you're looking from the company outwards. So you're looking at, I'm going to improve this process and lean it out, make it easier for the company. And as a side benefit, the customer should benefit. The difference in a customer experience environment is I'm actually going to look from the outside and say, what do I have to do to improve the customer's experience, which we start with that research. And that, as a side benefit, should help the company.
Right.
And so it's looking in the polar opposite direction.
But
on
it's
how
also
do we improve it?
Yeah, but it's also the same exact
It's the
thing, just
same.
from a different vantage point.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. So then where were you before this? How did ICW get you?
So I was at Honeywell Aerospace. And
I've heard of it.
Heard of it.
I was-
$16 billion company.
Yeah, I was a shareholder for quite some time. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Is what I have
It's
to say,
like,
right?
It's 1:33 at the moment. Time to get back in. You're doing all right.
So is this where you got your black belt, or?
No, prior to that, so I was in aerospace as well at Cessna Aircraft,
All right.
Textron company.
Well,
so
let's
I
do-
got my black belt there.
Let's do this in reverse order. So Honeywell, what were you doing there?
Honeywell, I led the customer experience team.
You did?
So yes.
Okay.
They
And-
didn't have one, so we created one.
Okay, and what were the kind of the main things that we had to do? This is a process-oriented organization, of course. The fact that they're going to do a customer experience thing was surprising to begin with, I'm sure.
Right.
So what were the kind of how difficult was it to get it going? And then, when you did, what were the kind of key lessons learned?
I think not unlike a lot of companies, it is the culture. It was probably the biggest hurdle because it is very engineering led, and not that engineers don't support a customer centric culture.
They just don't speak that language.
But they don't speak that language.
Right.
It's very black and white, so winning them over is a little different. And it's also all about the technology. If I build it, they will come. It's a field of dreams kind of thing as an engineer. I'm just going to build the neatest thing, and I'm first to market. They're going to want it.
Yeah.
And so through that, a lot of times that conveys to your customer as arrogance. And you don't mean it that way. You just want to be the best, and you want them to appreciate that you've done everything you can and to be first to market. When I started there and I had a conversation with customers, more than one asked me, do you know what HON stands for? I'm like, well, it's our stock ticker.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it stands for hostage negotiations.
Oh, boy.
And so the culture was a much bigger challenge than it is at ICW.
Wow.
So.
Oh, my goodness. And so then you just literally had to turn that 180. My goodness. All right. And so you just, getting in there, kind of understanding where the culture is, and then just slowly but surely kind of bringing them along.
Right. And you really had to quantify things. Not that you shouldn't anywhere, but an engineer isn't going to change behavior if you can't demonstrate why it benefited them in some way.
So at Honeywell, were you able to demonstrate to the bottom line what the customer experience enterprise was doing?
So there are, in a couple ways, it's interesting. Sometimes gifts will just fall in your lap.
Okay.
So as an example, fortunately, I reported to the president, so you can insert you into things. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
You get more visibility, you get more stage time.
Indeed.
And more interactions. And so as an example, the company was looking to, you're always looking to reorganize, and there are tax benefits, and tax was looking at a location in Canada, and if we classified it, changed the name from one entity to another, kept it in the same exact spot, but just changed the name, there was a tax savings. So the president said, well, have you checked with Kristin? Is there an impact to the customer? Oh, we already looked at the customer experience. No. Really? What did you look at? We can still cash their checks.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't matter what they write. We can still cash their checks.
Everything still works.
Everything still works. So then we get in there because we're invited, again, from the president. Right. So our questions are, well, now most of these are ISO 9000. So that means that they have to actually, even though all you're doing is changing the name, they have to physically visit it before they can add you to their supplier list. And do you know that they can't accept shipments if the name does it? It's no different really than Honeywell. I can't order from XYZ and get it from WPX.
Right.
The name change matters, and it went through. It was actually going to negatively. There was a huge scramble because we'd already changed the name.
Right.
And they couldn't get through customs. Things were stuck in customs. Customers were furious.
Right.
Some of the Japanese airlines it was going to take a year before they could update their internal supply chain to make it match. And when you start missing quarter results because someone said, I did look at the customer experience, I can cash their check.
Yeah.
You get a little more traction.
Indeed. Yeah. Those are results we can't miss.
You can't miss those.
Right. Interesting. Okay, we already looked at the customer. We can still cash the checks.
That's right.
Okay, but what checks are we going to be cashing? Right. Working our way backwards, Cessna. Now we get the fact that you understand how to work in these kind of really big process-oriented organizations. What was your position at Cessna? So
Cessna, I had a variety of roles. So I led marketing for the single engine aircraft. I led marketing for we have a service organization. So bringing your aircraft back to a Cessna service center is like taking your car back to the dealer to get maintenance.
I would imagine it's slightly more complex, but I'll go with you.
Slightly more complex, but you're still trying to woo people back beyond the warranty period.
Indeed.
They don't have to they can go to any shade tree mechanic just like you can do with your car. But it's their aircraft.
Right.
So it's trying to woo them back. And their customer experience is very important.
What were the kind of keys, I guess, So
the assumption was that we should, especially when I started leading the marketing for the service side of the business, the assumption was, why would you take it to a shade tree mechanic? Do you want you and your children to die in a fiery crash? I mean, why would you ever go with the cheaper guy maintaining your aircraft?
So a little bit of fear.
That didn't sell well.
No.
Sort of like a burglar breaking into your home. There's actually research shows that we still do it and see the commercials, but that doesn't actually sell as much as if you were the peace of mind. We know that. So we actually went out and did research, conducted marketing research, looked at, in order for us to capture more business, we could tell the market share. We know the parts being sold and what we needed to do to improve that. And the number one thing that came out on how we could win back more business was delivering a personalized experience.
Interesting.
And so then we had an entire campaign. Instead of don't die in a fiery crash.
Right.
What are all the initiatives we could do to make to so we know their name when they come in, so they when we answer the phone, we know what their history is. And just as if I were to call my State Farm agent today, when the phone rings, they already know who I am.
Yeah.
They know all of the policies. It pops up. People want a personalized experience. They
Always.
don't want to repeat information. They'll never tell you, I want you to remember my name, but they always want you to remember their name.
And it doesn't matter the personality.
No.
Every single one of us.
Every time.
Let's go all the way back. Where are you from?
I'm from the Midwest.
Okay, where in the Midwest?
So, Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Wisconsin, Kansas, Texas.
I think that's almost all of the
Pretty
Midwest.
much. I am from the Midwest.
Is that a military background
No,
there? Why so much moving?
My dad's a design engineer and worked at J.I. Case, and every time he'd get promoted, we'd move to another Midwestern town.
And this might be why you have interpersonal skills.
That's right. Meeting new people all the time.
Like every year.
Right.
Hey, I'm Kristin.
That's right. Don't beat me up.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool like you.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a whole experience in itself, right? To
Correct.
just completely move and completely introduce yourself all over again. Did that get exhausted? I mean, I'm looking at you. You couldn't be smiling bigger. So it doesn't seem like it was an exhausting experience for you.
You know, the moves were timed pretty well in that it was whenever I was a new kid in school, it was a transition. So New school. And so, like, you'd move from in your junior high, but everyone going into junior high that year was new.
Right.
When we moved between 9th grade and 10th grade in Indiana started, or high school started in 10th grade.
Oh,
and
wow.
So even though so not only was I not a new kid, I'd already been in high school in 9th grade back in Iowa. So I had
already
a little
know about this.
experience.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about switching classes, lockers. So the timing tended to be advantageous.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. And then when did you find out what you were good at and what you wanted to do?
So, I don't know when I was 3. My parents love telling this story. I went into the neighborhood and I found pretty rocks, and I asked them to help me write a sign, and I sold rocks that I had found in the neighborhood to the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
For 5 cents a piece.
Right.
And so I have always known I wanted to get into sales and marketing and customer experience.
No matter what the product.
No matter what the product. If you can always sell it. If I can find a rock and sell it to another kid that could have also found that rock. And so my undergrad's in marketing, my MBA specialized in marketing. So I just knew I wanted to do that.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I have a rather unfortunate kind of allegory as far as being a 3-year-old. I'm playing on the lawn, and my father's, let's say, trimming the hedges, and across the street comes the Burnsleys, right? And Mrs. Burnsley says, "Great news, Ed." That's my dad's name. Curtis got into Princeton. He's wanted to go to Princeton since he was 3. And so my dad, with the hedges in his hands, looks over at me playing on the grass, and he says, "Well, that's interesting, because Seth is 3 now, and he wants to be a dinosaur." So my whole thing didn't work out, but it looks like yours did, right?
It did. It panned out for me.
So where'd you go to school? You
Undergrad was at, I started out at IU because we lived in Indiana. Then we moved to Kansas. I finished at Kansas State my last 3 semesters.
Okay.
And then my master's is from University of North Texas.
Okay. And what is the master's in?
And my MBA was specialty in marketing.
Specialty in marketing. So you knew that you were going to market. You knew that you were going to have this relationship with the customer. Was Cessna the first position out, or no?
No, I worked at so when you graduate with a marketing degree, you get stuck in outside sales almost entirely.
Well, I also think I think I'm allowed to stop you here, because you have a personality, right? And you seem like somebody that I want to talk to. So I don't think anybody with a marketing degree gets stuck in outside sales. I think that they saw potential. Is that fair?
Possibly, but it seems like
she sold rocks.
I know.
Come on, this one,
True.
It doesn't matter what we have.
True, but there weren't a lot of real marketing jobs, at least what I wanted, as without any, just right out of school.
Fair enough.
So outside sales for a printing company, and every job I learned something. So with the printing company, I learned all about, besides that I don't like cold calling in Arizona without air conditioning in my car.
Right.
That how the printing works, and which helped later in my career in marketing, that I actually understood the different kinds of papers and what you could do with it. And all the creative things you could do. And then from there, I worked at CompUSA back when they were alive, and I managed one of their training centers. So at 23, I had my own P&L. And so that was great experience on how to run a profit and loss center.
So you say back when they were alive, and it sounds like when you were there, they were huge.
Yes.
So how, maybe this is why we don't have them anymore, because the 23-year-old was in charge of the P&L. Right. But it does sound like you knew what you were doing.
We made some money.
Right?
I made some money.
So tell us about that. Tell us about the culture of that organization and how they could kind of entrust, such a young person with such a big job.
Right. The culture was a retail environment, so there was a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, I was there. I got the T-shirt that Windows was launching. I mean, I'm old, and so this was a while ago.
I also remember that, so I don't know if that helps.
We're old.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I remember when Windows came out, and there's a lot of enthusiasm, and people are coming in, and they're launching all these things, and it's exciting. Computers were new, and, you had dozens of employees out there helping customers, and customers calling in saying, my cup holder doesn't work. And you're like, your cup holder? Turns out it's their CD player, and they're putting their drinks in it. And, it was a learning environment for everyone. And so
my cup holder doesn't work.
My cup holder broke. It doesn't work.
You are absolutely right, sir.
Absolutely right. And you have to learn to be patient and humorous. And I'm sorry. Can you help me describe that to me? Where is that cup holder of yours?
Let's talk about the similarities and differences between that customer and this customer. Meaning, you're kind of talking about the 90s there.
Right.
We've got a more well-informed customer, one that can know more, but one that doesn't necessarily know more, but one that thinks maybe he or she does know more. So as far as dealing with the customer, which you've been doing, how much more difficult is it now than it was, or how much easier is it now than it used to be?
So where it's maybe harder, especially in B2B, is that customers know more about what feels good.
Okay.
So they're bringing their consumer perceptions. It's no longer okay to say, all right, I'll tolerate you being rude to me or messing up my billing, or I have to call and be on hold for 3 hours because you're a business. Yeah. But then I have Amazon that's going to get me my order tomorrow, and it's always going to be right. I've had 50, and they always show up on time. And so there's no longer a distinction. They're like, if Amazon can do 1 gazillion packages, why is it you can't figure out how to handle my whatever it is, my cable transaction, your B2B environment, so my workers' comp insurance, my aerospace parts order? Why can't you get your stuff together? I have the same expectations that you know what you're doing as I experience in my consumer world. I go to the grocery store, and they use my reward card, and I only get coupons that matter to me.
Right.
They expect the business companies, don't waste my time. Only send me things I'm interested in. Don't send me generic emails. Don't send me a generic newsletter. Right. Only have it contain content I care about. My grocery store can do it. Why can't you?
So it's totally unacceptable.
Right.
That type of behavior now.
They won't tolerate it.
How many organizations do you think aren't getting that necessarily?
99.9%.
Interesting. And what do you think that is because of? Because you've just moved mountains in 9 months, so Kristin knows it's not that hard to at least get this thing going. Is it because folks just see the customer experience being a tough nut to crack, or what do you think it is?
I think they don't quite yet realize that it does matter. So, or they just want to scratch the surface. So they'll say, all right, I get it. People, I'm a consumer as well. I do have higher expectations, but they're looking at it from, that means I'm going to try to respond a little faster. So they might do it in one little area. The thing is, they want the consumer experience in every part of your company. Yeah. And again, it's not, I think one of the differences also is because they're existing, long-standing companies. Yep. If you're new, you can prepare. You already think, all right, I'm going to put them in place to deliver more of a consumer experience. If especially the longer I've been in business, the harder it is to make those changes, and they tend to make bad processes faster. So as an example, if you look at, from Six Sigma world, rolled throughput yield. You got a part, and you're going to send it down the assembly line, and you want to know how many of these, when I start out, let's say I have 100, make it to the end without any defects. Right. That's your rolled throughput yield. Sure. So if you've got 20, that means you lost 80 somewhere along in there. Scrap, rework. You can do the same thing in the B2B world. Let's say your rolled throughput of your phone tree. So what are your defects? Anyone who has an abandoned call, that's a defect. They hung up before you answered.
Right.
Anybody who gets transferred is a defect because their rolled throughput is I called once and I got the person I needed and I got the answer that I needed.
Right.
That's your rolled throughput. So transferring is a defect. Voicemail is a defect. Their wait times more than 3 minutes, so maybe they didn't abandon, is a defect. More than 5 rings is a defect, and you can go through it and do the rolled throughput. So first of all, I don't see that happening in a B2B environment. They don't measure that because they forget that those things are defects. And then when they go to fix it, they'll say, you know what I'm going to do? Those abandons, you're right, there's 7,000 of those. I'm going to go fix those. And what happens is all they do is shoot them into someone to be on hold faster. You've made a bad process faster. So you have 0 abandonments, but every one of those ended up in the transfer or the voicemail bucket. That's not an improved process. You're just making them mad faster.
Right, yeah.
So that's the second area I see as a big challenge is that they're making people mad faster because they forget to look at the whole impact to the customer.
I call that the Lenny approach. Going from of mice and men, right? You know, he
yes.
kind of he wants to do it. He really wants to, but then he just kills that rat, doesn't he?
Right.
Because he doesn't get it.
Right.
So, okay. So this customer experience thing, it's important. This customer experience thing, we can measure it to the bottom line.
Right.
This customer experience thing can't be taken in pieces.
Right.
We need to do this holistically.
Correct.
What else am I missing?
What else are you missing? You do have to invest. Personally, I think it has to be a dedicated initiative. So even at the company where I'm at now, the culture is great. They actually, for the past 3 or 4 years, have wanted to focus on the customer experience. And they've talked about it, but it's been sort of ad hoc and grassroots. So they do want to make a difference, but there wasn't an actual dedicated team to measure and focus and decide, what do I work on? You can't just assume because leadership makes it a priority and you've told people it's a priority and they all believe it's a priority that it's magically going to happen.
Sure.
It's a rigorous process. So it may feel good, but it's still a rigorous, disciplined process.
Okay, fine. I'm listening to you, and okay, great. Leadership puts it in, and I really got to work hard. Got it. But this one, she reports to the president over there with the other company, and the leadership's bought in over here. Honeywell, they loved the whole idea. What about where I have to manage up, and I have to explain to management, I have to explain to the C-level, explain to the board, hey, we do have to do this.
Right.
How do I do that?
I would run the ROI, just like back in my days at Cessna where we wanted to teach Novell and we needed our own T1 line to teach the Novell networking classes, and it needed a $5,000 investment. So I did a little business case saying, if I do this, it looks like I can get 12 students. I can get you a payback period within 3 months. We got the funding. We're able to put in a T1 line. It's no different. How you influence leadership, use dollars and cents. So go and look and measure, and you can get data you already have and say, you know what? I have the customer satisfaction. I can look at retention rates. Do you know if I believe, are you willing to gamble? Because companies gamble all the time on new technology. So are you willing to invest some of that R&D? Give me $1 million, whatever the budget is,
Sure.
100,000, 2,000.
Whatever the size of the company is.
Whatever the size of the company.
Yeah.
Give me that, and you can see that if I raise this by only 0.25%, 0.5%, the net impact in retention rates or renewal rates or bundled package adoption is X. You're going to get a return on your investment in 12 months, 8 months, 4 months. Would you, and you can look at your cost of capital, all the things you would look at if you were green sheeting it and it were a product you wanted to do R&D on, treat it as a product, show them the numbers. I absolutely guarantee you, if you do that, you come back into the success and get them to fund it. Money talks.
Black belt talk. That's what that is. Kristin, I could talk to you all day. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to tell you what the 3 questions are, the 3 final questions.
Okay, 3 final questions.
Oh, yeah.
There's more.
That's it, though. After that, it's over.
Okay.
All right, so I'll tell you what they are, and then I'll ask you them in order. What has most surprised you at work? And that's along the whole thing that we just discussed.
Okay.
What has most surprised you in life, which we also discussed.
Okay.
And then on the soundtrack of your life, 1 track, 1 song that's got to be on there. But we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Along this kind of journey here, what has most surprised you at work?
See, along the journey. I would say what surprises me is how, especially in B2B, but also B2B, we forget the psychology.
What do you
We're
mean?
human beings. We treat them like an organization.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing as the impact. Oh, it doesn't matter if you know their name. The customer didn't tell me it was their name. I remember back in the day going to an AMA, American Marketing Association class on how to train the trainer. And the number one thing they're teaching you is don't misspell the name on the placard when your students come in. We've proven it will taint their overall satisfaction with the entire class because you misspelled their name. Those kind of things. We still completely underappreciate the psychology of we're human beings. They may work at a company, but you take things personally.
Sure.
And we need to adjust and capitalize on that.
I like to say, because, people say, well, it's not personal, it's just business.
Right.
I like to say business is personal.
Right.
What's most surprised you in life?
Most surprised me in life. What's most surprising in life is when you thought you were so incredibly busy. Before you had children.
Okay.
And then after you have children, you wonder what you did with all that free time.
And then how many kids do you have?
I have 4.
Oh, what?
Yes.
All right, so that's twice as many parents.
That's right.
Because I've got my niece and nephew, 6 and 4. That's already chaos.
Right.
You've got that multiplied by whatever.
Well, once you have 3, you're outnumbered, so
Yeah.
you might as well have 5, 6, 7, 8. It doesn't make a bit of difference at that point.
Are we going to have more? Is that
No,
what no. We're good. We're good where we are.
We're good where we are. I'm exhausted.
On the soundtrack of your life, one track, one song that's got to be on there.
I don't know about one song. I could probably pick 2 artists.
We'll do it.
All right, so I'm going to pick 2 artists. Anything by Journey
Sure.
and AC/DC.
Wow.
I would pick those 2.
After Journey, I did not expect AC/DC. I did not expect Highway to Hell.
That's right.
Followed.
Also, big fan Rob Zombie.
Wow. Look at that. The many different hats.
That's right.
And interests.
It's supposed to be all the states I lived in.
That's it. Don't stop believing, Kristin.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And there you have Kristin Guthrie. Very much appreciate her time. Very much appreciate your time. Stay tuned.